just like to explore the pasuk, the ta'ana of these men. It says, we're all familiar, Vahi anashim asher hayu teme'im lenefesh adam. There were those people who were impure because of corpse tum'ah. Velo yachu la'asot ha'pesach bayom hahu. They cannot offer the korban pesach on that day. Vayikrevu lifnei Moshe lifnei Aharon bayom hahu vayomru hanashim hahema elav anachnu teme'im lenefesh adam. We are tameh as a result of corpse tum'ah. Lama nikara lebilti hakrivet korban Hashem bemoado betoch bnei Israel. Why should we be withheld from offering the korban pesach? So I just like to give out the Gemara that discusses the ta'ana, the claim that these people had against, not against, this claim that they came with before Moshe Rabbeinu. Let's take one. Here's the second page. Oh, I need one. I have to pass one back. I didn't realize I need one.
If there's a spare page, pass one back here. Yeah.
It's page 1.
Yeah, Chaf Hamud Aleph, just pass one back. Here's Chaf Hamud Bet.
Here's page 1 coming back.
Okay, great.
It's page 2 on its way.
Yeah. So here we have the pasuk at the bottom of page Chaf Amud Aleph. Vahi anashim asher hayu teme'im lenefesh adam. So the Gemara asks the obvious question, and this Gemara is quoted by Rashi in our parasha. Otam anashim mi hayu. Who were these people? Who were these people that were incapable of bringing the Korban Pesach and came before Moshe Rabbeinu with a request that they should not be left out? So the famous answer of the Gemara, one of the answers, Nos'e Arono Shel Yosef Hayu Divrei Rabbi Yossi Haglili. According to Rabbi Yossi Haglili, they were the bearers of Yosef's coffin. As we know, Yosef made Bnei Israel swear that Bnei Israel would take out his bones when they left Egypt. That's the first opinion. The second opinion, Rabbi Akiva Omer, Mishael ve'Elsafan hayu shayu oskin benadav avihu. According to Rabbi Akiva, it wasn't the bearers of Yosef's coffin. Who was it? It was those who took care of the bodies of Nadav and Avihu after they were burnt on the Rosh Chodesh Nisan. When they began the service in the Mishkan, they brought an unwarranted korban, and as a result, they were killed. Rabbi Yitzchak Omer, now this is not so well known, this opinion. Rabbi Yitzchak Omer, im noseh arono shel Yosef hayu, kevar hayu yecholin litaher. Im mishael ve'elzafan hayu, yecholin hayu litaher. Ela oskin bemet mitzvah. Rabbi Yitzchak Kam, it says it's impossible that the people, these anashim that the pasuk is talking about, are either the bearers of Yosef's coffin or those who were Mishael ve'Elzafan were taking care of the bodies of Nadav Avihu. Why? Well, let's look at Rashi. The second Rashi on the page. V'im noseh arono shel Yosef o Mishael ve'Elzafan hayu yecholin hayu litaher. Shehare be'echad benisan hukama mishkan. When was the Mishkan erected? It was erected on the first day of Nisan. Usheni lo saraf elazar et hapara. So on the first day of Nisan, the Mishkan was erected permanently. On that day, Nadav and Avihu died. On the subsequent day, Elazar already, he burnt the Efer HaPara, and he prepared the waters of the Para Duma in order to purify. Shizalo al temeh met shebahen lasot pischahen betahara kedamar b'masechet gitin. I'm going to continue this Rashi outside. So Rashi makes two simple calculations. Regarding Mishael Vel Safan, Nadav and Avihu died on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. From Rosh Chodesh Nisan until preparing the Korban Pesach, how many days are there? There's 14 days. They had plenty of time to become tahor, even though we're talking about the most severe impurity, core impurity as a result of coming into contact with a corpse, with a dead body. They had plenty of time to become tahor. El-Azar already began to prepare the meh of the Para Aduma on the second day. Now regarding the bearers of Yosef's coffin, they also had plenty of time to become tahor. Because where were they encamped at this time? Let's talk about our parasha. They were encamped in Midbar Sinai. They were not going to move from Midbar Sinai for another month and a half. They had been there for already 10 months. Only when they were traveling, when they were in motion, did anyone have to come into contact with the corpse of Yosef HaTzadik. However, when they were in encampment, when they were not in motion, when they were not traveling, there was no reason for anyone to come into contact with the corpse of Yosef HaTzadik. Therefore, why was anyone tameh? They had been encamped there for 10 months. So whether according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili you say that it was the bearers of Yosef's coffin, they had no one had come into contact with Yosef's coffin for 10 months. Whether you say it was Mishael Vel Safan who were taking care of the bodies of Nadav Avihu, they had 14 days to become tahor. So really the only opinion that seems to stand at this point is Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says it doesn't matter. It must be those people, ele oskin bemet mitzvah, people that were taking care of a met mitzvah. I think I saw an opinion that those people who would pass away from the Erev Rav, the converts, those people who accompanied Bnei Israel out of Egypt, people from Bnei Israel who would take care of their corpses. But according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, according to Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yitzchak seems to have a very strong question here. Why were these people tameh in the first place? There's no reason. Before we answer the question, I want to see a Tosfot. Mishael, the top Tosfot on the page, Chaf He Amud Bet, Mishael Vel Safan Hayu, V'im Tomar Ulman De'amad Perek Daled Mitot Desrefa Mamash Have Shenisrefu Gufehen V'chen Nami Darish Betorat Konim Akra Devatochel Esh Otam Amay Nitmeu. If you read Tosfot carefully, Tosfot is asking a question on Rabbi Yitzchak. He's asking a question on Rabbi Yitzchak, and it gives us an insight into Rashi. What's Rabbi Yitzchak saying? There's no reason for them to become tameh. Why is there no reason for them to become tameh? Well, Rashi explains.
Still to be tameh.
Huh? There's no reason for them to still be tameh. That's according to Rabbi Yitzchak. Why? How does Rashi understand Rabbi Yitzchak? Well, he says either they had 14 days for Mishael Vel Safan. So now Tosfot is wondering, let's put that aside. Let's put aside the fact that they had 14 days to become tahor, that Mishael Safan had 14 days to become tahor. What about the opinion that holds that it was srefa mamash? What does srefa mamash mean? That there was almost no remains of Nadav Avihu. If there's no remains of Nadav Avihu, there's nothing to become tameh. Kilu, you could ask, forget about the fact they had 14 days to become tahor. They had nothing, they didn't become tameh in this first place. That's the question. Tosfot is not outwardly asking on Rashi, but he's bringing up a valid point. Stop talking to me about dates and about times and about days. Let me bring you an opinion that seemingly holds that the entire bodies were consumed. There was nothing to become tameh about. There was just there was ashes, if will be. So what do we do with that opinion? So that Tosfot answers, and this is a major insight into the laws of corpse tumah. V'yesh lomar deshema Shaldan Haita Kayemet Ki'ilu Nisrefa Al Gabe Katbala Kedamar Beperek HaMapelet Met Shenisraf Veshaldu Kayemet Tameh. Tosfot explains we're forced to go like Rabbi Yitzchak and with the explanation of Rashi that they had 14 days to become tahor because there was what to become tameh from. The shaldan, the skeletal was still there. As long as the skeletal part of the body is still there, that is enough to convey corpse tum'ah. So we're forced to come on to the interpretation of Rashi. Not that there was nothing to become tameh from. There was something to become tameh from. The skeleton was still there. However, what about the fact that they had 14 days to become tahor? Now let's ask a question from the Aharonim, not on Nadav Avihu. Let's ask a question on the bones of Yosef. We're making a big deal here. Rabbi Yossi Aglili comes and says, you know who we're talking about? We're talking about those people who were bearing the coffin of Yosef. Well, what about the other 11 Shevatim? Why are you, so to speak, picking on Yosef? Right? What does it say? Noseh Arono Shel Yosef Hayu Divrei Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Now, granted, you're going to tell me that's the most famous case. He made Bnei Israel swear. The famous midrash, which I want to get to later when we do the Agadah part of the shiur, Moshe Rabbeinu was running around looking for Yosef's bones. That's fine. That's the most famous, well-known case. What about the other tribes? And those people bearing their coffins, they didn't become tameh? So I saw a beautiful answer, if you want to call it a bit of a scientific approach, is that Yosef, as opposed to the other Shevatim, help me out with this, he was embalmed, mummified, embalmed, right?
As Yaakov was.
Right. Therefore, his body was still in a state that it could convey corpse tumah. There were still bones. There were still human remains there. But the other tribes, according to one of the Aharonim wants to answer, the other tribes who were not embalmed, they were not mummified, however you want to put it, there was not al pi halacha enough remains or halach to categorize their remains that it can convey tumah. Therefore, Rabbi Yossi Aglili could only answer, when we're talking about people bearing the bones of the Shevatim, he could only answer Yosef because he was the only one who was embalmed. There's nothing to talk about the other tribes because the fact that they took their remains out doesn't mean that their remains were still in a state that they could convey tumah. It had been hundreds of years.
But Tosafot says that its skeletal is enough to convey tumah.
So even apparently there was even less than that by the rest of the tribes.
Hundreds of years, the bones are still left.
There's one bone that's always left.
Yeah. And they're,
Just a second.
ossuaries, still have bones in them from 2,000 years ago.
Clarification: is Meis Tumah the only Tumah which disqualified you from being for Pesach?
I'm sorry?
Is Meis Tumah was the only Tumah that disqualified you from being?
No, there's other tumot, but there's just a question here is that why did the Tanaim choose Mishal Bel Tzafan and the bears of Yosef's coffin? Because they had plenty of time to become tahor. Meaning, they're fine. There was corpse. It's going back to the pasuk that they came. Yeah, there's definitely other tumot. I think tamei sheretz also. Tumat sheretz.
Why did they?
There was no one else that was tamei.
Why are they emphasizing so much? You just said anybody who was Tumah during.
No, because they came with a claim against Moshe Rabbeinu. This whole sugya begins not that Moshe was teaching a halacha. The whole sugya begins the vehayu anashim. There were people amongst Bnei Israel who came with a claim against Moshe Rabbeinu that they were tamei as a result of corpse tumah. And what do? There's no incident where anyone came with a different type of problem, like tamei sheretz.
Excuse me.
Here, it's a Yerushalmi. Sheleachar 120 shana me'az hamita, after 120 years of death, regarding the corpse, chozer haguf liyot tarvad rekev v'shuv eno metameh. After 120 years, whatever is left of the corpse no longer conveys tum'ah. V'lachen davka Yosef shenechnet v'gufo nish'ar shalem. Like we said, Yosef was embalmed, and therefore his body remained completely intact. Timet nosav. It caused those who were holding his coffin to become impure. Be'od shara shevatim shelo nichnatu. They were not embalmed. They were not mummified. Ve'kevar avru 120 shana mizman shemetu ad zman yetziat Mitzrayim. However you do the calculation, without getting into it now, there was at least 120 years from when the Shevatim died till they left Egypt, if not more. Probably there was more, but there was at the very minimum 120 years. Therefore, there was no problem for those who were bearing the bones of the Shevatim. The only problem was those who were bearing the bones of Yosef HaTzadik, because his body, his remains were sufficiently intact that they could still convey corpse tumah.
So does this argue with
It says that
Tosfos?
the other Shvatim, the corpses were taken back to where it is.
If I remember correctly, it's a medrash. I don't remember where the medrash is, but it's a famous question when we deal with it in Parashat Beshalach, that Moshe Rabbeinu was running around looking for Yosef's remains. So the question is, well, what happened to everyone else's remains? On record, the remains of the original people coming down to Mitzrayim is all we have on record is Yaakov Avinu was taken to Eretz Canaan. But what do we do with the other Shevatim?
The Yosef, Hashpeah, he made them swear, take my bones back.
Right.
So, I mean, they took his bones back. I mean, there's no record. I mean, no one ever says that any of the other Shvatim.
Oh, so even though there was no obligation as a result of any type of swearing or vow, there's a medrash that says that they did take the bones of all the tribes out of Egypt. I mean, wait a second. We have them in Eritrea. We know some of the locations. I don't know about all the locations, but we know some of the locations of where the Shevatim are buried in Eretz Israel. So no, but it's an interesting question. So I guess you would say that this is only a question according to that medrash.
Yeah.
According to that medrash that we say that all the bones, all the remains of the Shevatim were taken. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili, why isn't he talking about bearing the coffin of Yosef? Talk about bearing the coffins of all 12 Shevatim, of all the tribes.
But doesn't that argue with Tosfos now? Because Tosfos is not saying there's a time limit, but rather if there's skeletal remains.
That's an interesting point. It could be that there is an argument, or it could be that their skeletal was not even intact, because Nadav and Avihu, we say that they were scorched, but there was still skeletal remains. After 120 years, according to the Yerushalmi, whatever there does remain,
so
it's not enough.
Bones, it has to be
right. There's not enough to convey corpse tumah. It could be that there's opinions that argue on this opinion, the Yerushalmi, but at the least we have a way to get out of this problem. What does Rabbi Yossi Aglili do with the other Shevatim? We went off on a tangent to address these two side points with Mishael, Safan, and the tribes, but let's get back to the core question. The core question is, what do we do with the question of Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili, according to Rashi, that there was definitely sufficient time? If you hold it's Mishael Bel Safan like Rabbi Akiva, they had 14 days to become tahor. If you hold it was the bearers of Yosef's coffin like Rabbi Yossi Aglili, they at the very least they hadn't touched his coffin in 10 months because they were encamped in the same place for already 10 months. So that's the core issue that we have to deal with right now. Why were these people still tameh? So one of the Aharonim, the Tzlach, deals with this, and it's a major insight. It's a simple yet profound answer that he provides. This is a real beautiful sugya to go through, especially on this past week's parasha. So look, the right-hand column, Vehine. Vehine Rabbi Yitzchak Keshiv LeRabbi Akiva DeRabbi Yossi Haglili. I Mishael ve'el Safan hayu, o nose arono shel Yosef hayu, kevar hayu yecholim leitaher. They could have become tahor already. Vehine be'emet kashe LeRabbi Akiva ve'Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Lama lo nitaru mikodem? Why they didn't become tahor from before? ועין בצלח למסכת פסחים בסוגיה דשוחטים וזורקין על טומאת שרץ דלקח לא ניתרו מקודם דהואיל ולא היה להם אפר פרה עד 10 לחודש. If you look at the tzlach in Pesachim, they didn't have the ashes of the para until the 10th of Nisan. וקיבלו הזעה שלישית וביוד לחודש. והיה שביעי שלהם בערב פסח, כמו שאיתה שם בגמרא דשביעי שלהם היה חל ערב פסח. והנה זה גופה קשיא, לפי מה דכתב רש"י במסכת גיטין, דבבית ניסן נשרפה הפרה. This is the point I want to focus on. If we hold, like Rashi says, that the para Aduma was burnt on the second day of Nisan. Whether Mishael ve'el Tzafan or whether the bearers of Yosef's coffin, already they could have become tahor from the second day of Nisan. The halacha is by corpse tuma it takes 7 days. During those 7 days, there's two procedures. On the third day of the 7 days, you're sprinkled with the ashes of the para aduma, and on the 7th day of the 7 days, you're sprinkled with the ashes of the para aduma. So if we say that the para aduma was already burnt on the second day of Nisan, you definitely have 7 days to become tahor from the second day of Nisan till the 14th day of Nisan. So we still have a major problem here.
Well, it's really from the first day, because you can be tahor before you can start counting prior to the
right. No, but just the issue. Even if you start counting, but he's dealing
by the third day.
Right, but he's dealing with the issue. You can start counting, but were the ashes of the para aduma available? And the answer is yes. Already on the second day, they burnt the para aduma and began preparing the ashes. So they had the third day. They had the ashes to be sprinkled with on the third day, and they had the ashes to be sprinkled with on the 7th day. Any way you do the math, there was plenty of time before Pesach to get them pure. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Akiva seem to be really stuck over here.
How do we know that they were niftar on Rosh Chodesh Nisan?
Because Rosh Chodesh we know. I'll do the easy one first. Rabbi Yossi Aglili says it was the bearers of Yosef's coffin.
Yeah.
So they had already been in camp for 10 months.
No, he says you had
No, right. So I'm just going to cover burnt. Oh, Rashi says. Rashi tells us it was already burnt on the second day of Nisan, and we don't find any dissenting view. That as soon as Mishael ve'el Tzafan, they were taking care of the bodies of Nadav and Avihu, who passed away on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Second day of Nisan already, they had a para aduma burnt and ready to purify everybody.
Okay, but this is Rashi saying on both points, right?
Well, so yeah, it takes care for both points, but even if you take on the more problematic one, Mishael ve'el Tzafan, even Mishael ve'el Tzafan had 14 days. Meaning, on Bet Nisan,
if you're certain that they were niftar on Rosh Chodesh Nisan.
Yeah, that's when Nadav and Avihu passed away.
So where do you have that source?
Oh, because the final day of the inauguration of the Mishkan started, excuse me for not explaining that, the inauguration of the Mishkan was on Chaf Gimel Adar. The inauguration of the Mishkan finished on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who did all the service in the Mishkan for the first 7 days. Then the Kohanim came in on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and from there till eternity, only the Kohanim could do the service. On Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that's when Nadav and Avihu bought this unwarranted korban, and that they were burnt, and then Mishael ve'el Tzafan were sent in to take care of them, to take care of their corpses.
Well, everything hangs on that.
Right? No, it's a great point. Excuse me for not explaining it, for making that clear earlier. So from Chaf Gimel Adar, these are the 3 main dates we need. Chaf Gimel Adar, the Mishkan was inaugurated. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the Kohanim began their service, and Nadav and Avihu were killed. On Bet Nisan, already you had a para aduma ready to be mitaher Mishael ve'el Tzafan.
Rashi doesn't give us how he comes to that date of the second.
No, he does not. Let me double check that.
Was it the first Korah Aduma ever started?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
So what happens to the other people? In other words, this is not the first time that they handled a mace. How did those people become tahor?
So they could from that para aduma.
I'm saying going before.
So they didn't. They were tameh.
So okay. So I'm saying in that case, then a lot more people would have a complaint that they couldn't participate in the Korban Pesach.
Why?
Because then if this was the first para aduma, then where was the purification process for these people who handled the mace?
There wasn't
to become tahor.
Let me add a point here. When a person becomes tameh, there's no actual mitzvah to become tahor. There's no commandment, right? So really the problems only start with the Korban Pesach. Oh my gosh, we have to do a Korban Pesach.
Right.
So that's now with the Korban Pesach, that's why Rashi is doing all these calculations to see any way you cut it or any way you count it, everyone had enough time to become tahor. Whether it was the bearers of Yosef's coffin, whether it was Mishael ve'el Tzafan, Any way you do the math, everyone had, really the problem only starts with the Korban Pesach. So any way you do the math, everyone had enough time to become tahor.
Except for the Kohanim.
What do you mean?
Well, they have a problem in the...
Why?
Is the Korban Pesach the first Korban that's ever brought?
I don't know if it was the Korban Pesach was offered on...
The Kohanim can't be...
Okay, I'm not sure. Fine. Let me...
Right.
I just wanted...
Okay,
I'm not sure. Okay. Rabbi Yitzchak היה שריפת הפרה בבית ניסן. According to Rabbi Yitzchak, the burning of the para aduma was on the second day of Nisan. ולרבי עקיבא ורבי יוסי הגלילי לא הייתה אלא עד י' בניסן. אבל זה דוחק. It's very difficult to say that Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili argue that there's an argument on when the para aduma was actually burnt. The Tzlach wants to say, we don't find anywhere there's an actual machloket, because maybe you could get the whole problem starts that if the para aduma was burnt on the second day of Nisan, there was sufficient time for everyone to become tahor. So to get out of that problem, let's just say that Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili argue and say, no, it wasn't burnt on Bet Nisan, it was burnt on a later date. But the Tzlach says it's very difficult to say that because we don't find anywhere any argument on this point in Shas, and it seems to be that it's unanimously agreed upon that the Serefat HaPara was done on Bet Nisan. Amnam, I amrinan de Pesach haya al pi hadibur. If we say that this Pesach, that they were just recently commanded the Korban Pesach, the lo nitztavu al tziyata Pesach lo hayu osinoto ho'il venizufin hayu velo malu et benehem umilat banim va'avadim me'akevet me'lasot et Pesach. I don't want to open up a can of worms here. Just follow me what I'm saying. If we say that the Korban Pesach was not yet a mitzvah that's understood that you have to do every year, the Tzlach wants to take the approach that this was a specific, that they had to wait to be commanded on the Korban Pesach. There was the Korban Pesach in Mitzrayim, and this is the second time they were commanded on the Korban Pesach, and they did not offer any other Korban Pesach in the desert, because their children did not have Brit Milah. They could not do Brit Milahs in the desert. So this is the only time they were commanded in the Korban Pesach. So they had to wait to be commanded, or otherwise they're not allowed to do it. So the Tzlach says, follow me, if you take the approach that they had to wait to be commanded the Korban Pesach, then we can make everything work. We can, so to speak, save Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Akiva. Granted that the bearers of Yosef's coffin and Mishal Ve'al could have been tahor already by the 14th day of Nisan. Afilu hachi lo nechpezu letaher atzman kevan delo yadu shiyasu et haPesach. They were not careful to become tahor in time because they didn't know there was going to be a command to do the Korban Pesach. Maybe this goes back to what you were asking. Since they didn't know there was going to be a commandment to do the Korban Pesach, there was no need for them to run and become tahor. There's no mitzvah to become tahor, and there was no reason for them to run and become tahor. Im ken lo hayu tzrichin liyot betara b'yom yudalet. They didn't need to be in a state of purity on the 14th of Nisan. Velo nitharu ela kedei shiyu betara b'yom tov ho'il v'chayav adam metaret atzmo baregel v'gam kedei lechol basar shelamim b'yom tov ki mitzvah lechol basar b'yom tov. The only time there's an obligation to be pure, there's no mitzvah to become pure, but there's an obligation to become pure for the Yom Tov. So since Pesach was coming up, they knew they had to become tahor, so they did their calculations that they should become tahor by the evening of the 15th of Nisan, not for the Korban Pesach, for the Korbanot, for the sacrifices of the holiday. Nothing to do with the Korban Pesach. So to be pure for the holiday, that they knew they had to do. So they made their calculations to be pure for the evening, for the night of the 15th of Nisan Pesach. However, God comes with a commandment, do the Korban Pesach, and that has to be slaughtered on the 14th. So on the 14th, they're not going to become pure until that night, the night of the 15th, in time for this Shelamim Korban of Pesach. But they're not ready, they're off by a day or a mere hours to be ready for the Korban Pesach. So to speak, God came out of left field with this Korban Pesach. Therefore, they were not ready for it. They were ready to be pure for the 15th of Nisan, for Pesach itself. However, they were not ready to be pure to slaughter the Korban Pesach. Because there was the premise of all of this, the base of all of this, is that this was a specific commandment in the Korban Pesach. It still was not understood they had to do the Korban Pesach on a yearly basis. So they were caught completely off guard.
When are they given the command to do the Korban Pesach in the Midbar? At what point?
This is the only time they were given the command. It's the second year. Oh, so that I didn't see. So I looked around for that very hard. I knew that question was coming. I didn't find the day, but it seems to be whenever they got the commandment, there was not. It must have been. Yeah, let's make.
After the
I don't know the exact day, but yeah. So let's do. It had to come after Zayin Nisan. Because they start becoming pure on Zayin Nisan, they become pure the night of Pesach. Right. So it definitely came after Zayin Nisan, and they didn't have enough time to start earlier.
Do we have any...
Any what?
Well, it's a curious thing because it's being proposed that it came out of left field from Hashem.
Right.
Right.
That's the base of the Tzlach's answer.
And it's a little bit strange that it would be so far out of left field, considering that they had once brought this already back in Mitzrayim.
Okay.
Right? It's not entirely out of left field.
That's a good point. I hear the question.
And since we don't have any real reference to when the commandment was given to bring it.
So it must have been, where did you, it had to be after Zayin Nisan, because like we're saying, they were caught off guard.
To support this argument, yeah.
Right, it had to be. But now, just to sum up the answer is that since the Korban Pesach was not yet an understood mitzvah that you do on a yearly basis, it was still based on a specific commandment by God. They were not ready. They did not expect that they would have to offer Korban Pesach this year. Therefore, they did not prepare themselves from a purity perspective to be pure. And then when God came with the commandment, they were caught off guard.
But wasn't the first Seder actually in Mitzrayim?
Right, exactly.
So my question is, when we say all the tefillos during the Seder, we keep repeating that you're going to teach this to your children, that you will do these for generations.
Excellent. But at this point, so the answer to that is that at this point it was still a specific, they still had to be commandment, because they did not do Brit Milah in the desert. They didn't do Brit Milah in the desert. The third time they did the Korban Pesach was actually when Yeshua took them into Eretz Canaan. So they still had to wait for a specific commandment on the second year that they left Egypt. There was a second year after they left Egypt. There was a specific commandment to do the Korban Pesach, which caught them off guard.
And after that, they waited 40 years for the next Pesach?
Right, because you can't, like he's saying over here, if you have, it's a whole sugya within itself. I don't want to get into it.
Just before they left.
Huh?
Before they left Mitzrayim, they did Brit Milah.
Right.
So in the
no, but now they were
the only people who had
that's why I said I don't want to get into if you have children, it's a whole sugya, it's in Yevamot. If you have children that do not have a Brit Milah
under the age of 2, we're talking about. Right? Children above the age of 2 had already done Brit Milah before they left Mitzrayim.
Okay. Here, the Gemara in Yevamot says, like I said, it's a complicated sugya. If there are children, if you have children or servants that do not have a Brit Milah, even though you have a Brit Milah, you cannot offer Korban Pesach for your family. So they did not expect to get this commandment of the Korban Pesach. I just want to just add in another point. So, there was no hurry for them to be in a state of purity Erev Pesach. They didn't know they were going to bring the Korban Pesach. They thought they would not be commanded the Korban Pesach because they were nizufim. There was people in their families who did not have a Brit Milah. אמנם אחר כך כשציווה להם השם לעשות הפסח, אף שהיו ניזופים, ניגשו גם הטמאים ואמרו למה נגרע. However, even though God comes with the commandment that for this year do the Korban Pesach, then the people who were impure come to Moshe Rabbeinu, say now we have a problem. I just want to add in an interesting caveat, a point, that the Ritva explains that if you read carefully, you know when you come to a rabbi with a question that's not really a question, you're just coming to double check? Meaning, Rabbi, it's okay to do this, right? So the Ritva says that he wants to deduce from the Pesukim that when they came to Moshe Rabbeinu, it wasn't so much a question as much as it was a reassurance that it was okay. Why? Because like we said, based on the Tzlach, were they on the verge of becoming Tahor? Yeah. They were on the verge of becoming Tahor. They were going to become Tahor that night in preparation for the Korbanot of Pesach. They just weren't ready for the Korban Pesach, but they were going to be in a state of purity for the holiday, because for the holiday you have to offer up Korbanot. So when they came to Moshe Rabbeinu, they said, look, it's not so bad. We're already in the 7th day. All we have to do, it's called Tvul Yom. We've done everything that you have to do to become Tahor. Now it's just a question of time. We're hours away. But as far as procedures, we've completed all the procedures that you need to become Tahor. So they were sure that as far as just slaughtering the Korban Pesach, there would be no problem. So that's why they came to him. The Ritva wants to say, not so much with a question, but with a reassurance like, okay, look, we're going to become Tahor in a few hours by nightfall. So we can just, and all we have to do for the Korban Pesach is slaughter it. So it's okay to do that. Right? Right? Moshe Rabbeinu says, no. Because if you notice, they waited, it's kind of like last minute here. Like they got their act together at the last minute. Why did they procrastinate to ask? Why was this not taken about earlier? Because they were 95% sure there wasn't a problem. Based on the Ritva and the Tzlach, they were becoming Tahor that night. They had already been sprinkled on the 3rd and on the 7th day. All they were asking was to slaughter the Korban Pesach. Right? And even that, Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm sorry, in your state, al pi halacha, it's asur, and therefore we need a Pesach Sheni.
Slaughter and eat.
Yeah. Slaughter, right?
No, they would be...
It would be slaughtered, but you'd be part of a group to slaughter it.
Right.
So the one who is Tamik, say, okay, you're Tahor, Vadai Tahor, you go ahead and slaughter it. But their question also was, could they eat, partake of it, no?
No, the question was if they could slaughter.
Yeah, because they would be Tahor by the time.
I think that affects even the slaughtering. That I never did the sugya in depth, but I think even the aspect about being part of a group, everyone has to be ra'ui to slaughter, fitting to slaughter. Here.
Because they would be Tahor in time to eat.
והייתה תשובה להם שכיוון שמחוסרים תבילה אין שוחטין עליהם את הפסח. They were just lacking the tevilah. They were on the last day, and still they were told, you cannot do the shchita of Pesach. ולפי שהיו שבי שלהם בערב פסח, והיו ראויים להזות עליהם ולטבול בפסח בלילה, all they had to do was go to the mikveh at night, and they were done. So they just came, let us do the shchita. They didn't think it was going to be a problem. They just came for reassurance, like, it's okay if we do the shchita, right? Shlomo says no. And they were taken aback. Now they realized they had a problem. Then comes Pesach Sheni.
Because their argument is, by the time it's time to eat the
we're
korban,
fine.
We're
Tvul Yom. Famous concept. Right. We are Tvul Yom. We should be okay. Right? I mean, we were talking Talmidei Chachamim. And the sister says, oh, hold on a second. No, you have a problem. And they were very taken aback. Like I said, think about a time when you came to the rabbi just for reassurance. You were 95% sure that you were on the ball. And the rabbi says, oh, wait, hold on a second. That's exactly what happened here. They didn't come so much with a question as much as they came for a reassurance that what they were doing was right. The Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, you have a problem. So, what time is it?
25 after.
25 after. Okay, we'll just finish with some, that's the sugya of the Hayu Anashim, those men that came to Moshe Rabbeinu. I just want to finish with an insight, more agadah. When it comes to being a prophet, what's the job description? What's the criteria to be a prophet? So there's actually Gemara Nedarim. The Gemara Nedarim tells you what the criteria, what credentials do you have to present if you want to become a prophet. There's 4 credentials here. You need to be wise, you need to be wealthy, you need to be strong, and you need to be humble. How do we know that? Well, we learned from Moshe Rabbeinu. How do we know that Moshe Rabbeinu was strong? He was able to take, when they were erecting the Mishkan, he was able to take the curtain made of goat skin and put it over the Mishkan as a roof, keeping in mind that the walls of the Mishkan were 5 meters high. So for one person to take this curtain and to erect it over the Mishkan, you had to be pretty strong. A second proof, the Gemara wants to reject this as a proof. The Gemara brings another proof that the tablets, the Luchot HaBrit, they were 48 centimeters by 48 centimeters and 24 centimeters thick. And we know not only did Moshe Rabbeinu hold the Luchot, when it came to the Egel Hazav, he threw the Luchot. Therefore, the Gemara wants to bring a proof. Someone who can hold tablets of stone that are 48 centimeters wide, 48 centimeters in length, and 24 centimeters thick must be a very strong individual.
But he wasn't able to hold out his own hands, unaided. He had to be helped.
That's a good point. Good point.
That was his old age, right?
He's also lifting up, right?
Which is kind of strange because
right?
Which is kind of
very good.
Because we learned, we learned from Moshe that when he passed away, his strength was as youthful, as strong as when he was young, and yet we have the situation where his hands had failed, and stones were put under his arms.
Right, to hold him up.
There's a kind of
So in any case, we see that he was strong. How do we know he was wise? Well, God, there's 50 portals of wisdom, and God gave him access to 49 portals of wisdom. How do we know he was humble? That's this week's parasha, Ve'aish Moshe anav me'od. And how do we know he was wealthy? Well, we said earlier, instead of running around asking Egyptians for gold and silver like the Jews were, he was getting the bones of Yosef. So the famous Gemara, that when he was carving out the tablets, it says, Pesol lecha. We deduce from there that God told Moshe Rabbeinu, you can keep the shearings from the tablets for yourself, and overnight Moshe Rabbeinu became a fabulously wealthy individual.
Wasn't that the first Luchos as well? He became wealthy from the stones, the broken stones from the first tablet.
I never saw that anywhere. It could be. I just know from the shearings. The Gemara says from the shearings of carving out the tablets. So now we have proofs that he was wise, he was wealthy, he was humble, and he was strong. The obvious question is, to be a prophet, why do you need to be wealthy and strong? We understand wisdom, we understand humility. I mean, when I picture a prophet, I picture an individual with a long white beard, maybe with a cane, a bit hunched over. That's the way you picture, like in the old country, the Sephardic countries, the Chacham. But wealth, strength, that is what the criteria to become a prophet. So I saw explained. You could get out of it. You could get out of it, but I'm not gonna leave. You could get out of it very simple.
Wealth and humility is very difficult.
Oh.
If you can do that.
So you could get out of it very simply. Ezehu gibor. Strength doesn't mean brute strength. It means one who overtakes his evil inclination. Ezehu ashir hasamech bechelko. Who is the wealthy one? Who is happy in his lot? But I'm not going to take that path. Let's take it for the way the Gemara says that wealth means real wealth and strength means real strength. Let's put Pirkei Avot aside for now. So the answer is, and this is a lot based on the writings of Rabbi Dr. Twersky on his Pirush on Mesilat Yesharim, is that we have an insight from the criteria to be a Navi that people generally, they mix up humility and low self-esteem. People think that humility means low self-esteem. We see from the criteria to be a Navi is that humility doesn't mean to be a meek, unassuming individual, low-key, or unwarranted or unjustified feelings of being a nothing. That's not what humility means. Humility means that you recognize your gifts, you recognize your talents, you recognize your skills, and still you attribute it all to God. A prophet has to be strong, and he has to be wealthy. Why? Because we need to see that his humility is true. He has what to be conceited about. He's a wealthy guy. He's a strong guy. And still, you're able to put aside your ego, or you're able to work on your ego, and you're truly humble. That's why the prophet, we don't want a meek individual. We don't want an unassuming individual, because maybe the humility is true, maybe it's not. Give the person something to be conceited about, and if he still remains a humble person, then that's true humility. That's why the criteria to be a Navi, aside for wisdom, and aside for wisdom and aside for humility, is he has to be wealthy and he has to be strong. It's our way of checking out if his humility is indeed true. Have a good week.
Right.